This is Coding for Beginners, and in today's episode, we're going to be learning about divs, borders, and boxes. So let's start off with the basics. Let's say you've never used HTML or CSS before. The first thing you're going to do after you install Visual Studio Code or whichever you're using. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to create an HTML document, and you can title it whatever you want. In this case, I titled mine Divs and Borders, and then you have to include .html because it's an HTML file. And the first thing that you need to include in every HTML file is doctype HTML. That always needs to be included right there at the top. Right up here. And then the second thing that you're going to add is a thing called a HTML tag. Now, tags are separated like this. So, see how this has these on the outside right here? Those are what symbolize a tag. And what symbolizes a tag ending is this little that little forward slash right there. So if I started with HTML, I'm gonna end with /HTML. Okay, so how are CSS and HTML different? CSS is different from HTML because what CSS does is CSS gives you the ability to change colors, the size of fonts on your website, the background color, whereas HTML is the actual boxes and text and images that go into making the website. So the HTML is like the material that builds the website, but the CSS is like what you use to customize it. So the CSS is what's mainly important. So, to start typing some CSS, we first have to make a style tag, like so. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start typing inside these two tags, so that the computer knows that this is CSS right here, and this little section right here, all around here. And so let's say I want what I'm gonna type to be in bold, or let's say we want it to be in cursive. What we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to type .div, and then we're going to put brackets right there, and then we're going to click enter. And for this specific command, what we're going to do is we're going to say font family, and then we're going to put the two little dots right there, and we're going to say cursive, and then we're going to put that right there, this little symbol. I forget what it's called, I'm blanking on it. But if you don't have this right here and this right here at the end, then your code will not work. It will not work ever. Okay, so now we have to actually create what is going to go into making this little website that we're making right here. Say I just want to say hello world. That's all I want to say. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a body tag, and then inside the body we're going to make a div tag. And a div tag is the a standard tag, and as a matter of fact, instead of treating them like tags, when you're picturing the website in your head, they're more meant to be pictured as boxes, because that's what they are. They're little tiny boxes, and you have to specify how big they are and all these details. So say I just go back, I'm going back to what I was saying before. Okay. So I just wanted to say hello world. I'm going to say hello world, maybe put an exclamation point right there at the end. Now, notice how the tag is called a div. This right here, this little box, is called a div. And so the reason we put this up here, .div, or actually in this case, I messed up there. We would just put div. The reason we put div here would be because this right here, the CSS, is communicating with this div tag right here. And it's telling it that it wants this right here, hello world, to be in cursive. And there are a bunch of different commands you can do. Say you want its color to be green. You can just type color, put that there, and then start typing green, click that, and then end it. There we go. The words are going to come up as the words will come up as green now when you open them in Chrome. So we're going to save that, is what we're going to do. We're going to save that, and we're going to drag it right over here to the divs and borders.html page right over here. It's going to be in Chrome because that's where we run these files. That's where you run them. And as you can see up here, I don't know if you guys can see this very good, but up here it says hello world in cursive and in green, just like I specified. And so that's good. That means we didn't mess anything up. It's doing what we told it to do. Now, CSS and HTML act weird because when you miss something or mess something up in CSS or HTML, you make a mistake. Say I was missing this right here, like that. It will ignore it instead of trying to correct you. Right here. It will completely ignore the mistake. See how it went over it? It was the exact same. It didn't really matter. But that does not mean you don't want to scan through your code and correct mistakes, because those mistakes will eventually cause problems later. And so another command you can do is you can change the font size. Now, here's where we get into the sizing properties. So what I'm going to use in this case is I'm going to use pixels, which is abbreviated PX. But I could also use point, which is PT, and is the same standard font size as in a Word document. Or you could use EM, which is kind of like point, but fonts that are EM will change size. They'll change size depending on the size of your window. Right over here, like if I had this smaller and that was an EM right here, that would have shrunk. I can't quite remember what EM stands for, but it's one of the most common units of measurement that you'll use. But in this case, we're going to use something simple. We're going to use point, I guess, for this example. Instead of pixel, not pixel, we're going to use point. So we're going to type font size, and let's say probably about 26 point. And so now, if we save that by clicking Command Save on a Mac, if you're on a Mac, you click Command Save. We're going to drag this over here, and we'll see that it went from being the standard font size to being font size 26. And so the next thing we're going to do is say we want the text to be centered. So, how do we get it to be centered? Now, the div, this div right here that we created, spans from this corner over here, right here where the top of the text is. It doesn't go a single pixel above it, to all the way down over here on the other side of the browser. And it doesn't go a pixel below where the words are. It goes all the way along, like this. So this one div isn't really this big. It's about this big. It spans from this corner all the way to this end. Right there. And so say I want to center it. All I have to do is say text, align, center, and then end it there. If I save, I can drag it over to here, and boom, it will be centered right there. See, we changed the size, then we centered it, and then what we can do is say we want it to be right bang in the middle of the screen. We want it to be right there, but we don't know how to get it down there. What we're going to do is we're going to say what we're going to do is we are going to say margin top probably about 50 pixels or so. 50 pixels down. And so if we save that and drag that over here, you'll see that's way further down now. Not quite as far down as we thought it would be, but still it's pretty far down. Further down than it was last time, which is progress. And so that's that. And so yes, margins. I forgot to tell you guys about this. Margins. There are a few different things that you can do to separate text into divs from say the top of the browser or the right side or the left side. Margin is let's see. If this is a div right here, the browser is all around here. This is Google right here. This is the Google page. Right up here, see? That's Google right there. And this is a div right here. This right down here is a div. And it has text in it. The padding is this area right here. It's the area between the text and the border of the div right here. This is the border, which would normally be invisible, and this is the text. Oh, decline that. And outside the border would be the margin. So this right here is the margin, and this right here is the padding. So if I want my text to be far down without changing the way the div is, then I'm going to use margin, not padding. Because if I use margin, I'll be able to put other divs, like this one, in between these two. But if I use padding, this will expand all the way up to the top, right up here, and I won't be able to put a div there. So that's that. And that covers some of the basics. Like I said, there are a bunch of commands that you can do in CSS, a bunch of commands you can use, and all of them do different things. I recommend you go to w3schools.com. They're really good. They have, I don't know if I said this earlier, but they have all the different things you can do all right in here. It's a really good guide. It helped me a lot out in the beginning when I didn't understand things in my class. I'll always went over to here and like say I needed to see how to use the navigation bar. I would go to that tab, look here. Oh, see, look, they have an example navigation bar. And they even give examples right here, and they give little code examples that you can look at. So yes, I recommend them, and I'm not sponsored by them, by the way, but I do recommend them. And anyway, this has been the first part of the basics of HTML and CSS, and I will see all you guys in the next episode. Bye.